Hey there guys, how are you today, and welcome to my preview of the 2018 Bahrain Grand Prix. Sorry I didn't do any videos talking about the Australian Grand Prix. I have explained why in the previous videos, so go and check out if you haven't seen it, and if you're interested, go and look. But now let's get on to discussing the 2018 Bahrain Grand Prix. So last time out in Australia, Vettel took home the victory in the first race of the 2018 season. Arguably, Mercedes driver, reigning world champion Lewis Hamilton, was the faster driver on the day, but Vettel got past under the virtual safety car by making a pit stop at that point to take the lead. And sadly, in Australia, overtaking is pretty difficult, and Vettel won the race. Of course, the other big story coming out of the Australian Grand Prix was that the Haas team were doing surprisingly well, running in 4th and 5th at the start of the race, before two dodgy pit stops caused both drivers, Grosjean and Magnussen, to retire. And of course, going into Bahrain, there's lots of controversy over whether Haas have copied Ferrari's 2017 car or not. We know that was quite a successful car. Have Haas copied it in some way, shape or form? That's the debate going on at the moment. So as for Bahrain, Ferrari have the most wins in Bahrain, which came onto the calendar in 2004. Ferrari have 5 wins. Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel have 3 wins apiece around the circuit, while I believe Hamilton has 2. So it could be a pretty exciting battle this weekend. So now let's talk about the teams and drivers, what they'll be hoping for this weekend. So as for Mercedes, I'm trying to do this in the order of the 2017 constructors. So Lewis Hamilton will be aiming for a bit of revenge on Sebastian Vettel after Australia. He felt, and I would say quite rightly, a bit unlucky after Australia, and he'll want to hit back. And he's expected to do well in qualifying with the so-called party mode for the engine, which is basically extra power, which other teams don't seem to have. But can he convert it into the win? Statistically, being on pole isn't always the best thing in Bahrain, in terms of going on to convert pole position to race victory. Maybe something that's to bear in mind, or will Hamilton be able to beat the odds and get victory this weekend? Valtteri Bottas, his teammate, will obviously be aiming to avoid a repeat of his crash in qualifying in Australia, which ruined his whole weekend and meant he only finished at Grand Prix, I believe, in 8th place. He was on pole in Bahrain last season, so he does know what he's doing here, that's for sure. Can he surprise us all and do it again? I'm not going to predict it, but maybe Bottas can take a surprise pole and maybe even a surprise victory. Now, moving on to Ferrari, of course, the championship leaders after their victory in Melbourne. So, of course, Vettel is on a high following Australia. He tends to do well in Bahrain, better than Hamilton statistically. So can he extend the championship lead? It's fairly likely. Ferrari got a fast car this season. I think Ferrari were faster than we thought they were going to be in Australia, and they're hoping to repeat that in Bahrain. And maybe they should be in the fight for the victory. And I reckon Vettel might certainly run Hamilton very close yet again. However, in Australia, I would argue that Raikkonen was faster than Vettel. He out-qualified him, he was beating him in the race, only lost out because of the virtual safety car. This weekend we may get a better idea if he has really upped his game for 2018, or if maybe Vettel was just a little bit off his game and got lucky in Australia. But it could be interesting to see how well Raikkonen does this weekend. That's something I'm personally going to be looking out for. Moving on now to Red Bull and Daniel Ricciardo. A good performance in his home race. He did get a penalty after, I believe, not slowing down enough for under yellow flag in practice. I can't remember exactly, but he did well to fight back through the field. Some good overtaking, and I guess the next step is to challenge properly for the podium and the win. There's still constant discussion and chat about where he'll be next season. Of course, we're going to get that now until a contract is signed or an announcement is made. But he really could do a race without any penalties to show what him and his car can do in 2018. While Verstappen seemed a bit out of sorts in Australia, seemed very frustrated not being able to overtake. He had a spin in the race which damaged his car. but is he going to be back to his brilliant best this weekend? He was on the pace here last season, 2017, so maybe he can do something again in 2018. But I think in general it has been hard to judge Red Bull's real pace in Australia due to difficulties in overtaking, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with them in Bahrain. Moving on now to the midfield. Force India. Certainly one of the disappointments of Australia. Looks like they've fallen back a bit from last season. I would say in general the midfield has switched around completely this year. But two good drivers though, and they traditionally get better as the season goes on. And I reckon if they're going to get some luck, they should be able to get into the points, but only with some luck. So maybe a safety car or something. We'll have to see how that goes. And I think the same sort of has to be said for Williams. Again, I would say they're a big disappointment in Australia. We know they've got a weak driver lineup, but that's my opinion anyway. But I know loads of you guys agree with me there. And I'm not really sure what we can expect from them this weekend. I guess I would like to see Sirotkin be able to complete the whole race. He did get obviously very unlucky in Australia. I believe it was some incident with a bag getting involved with a plastic bag getting in the radiator or something, wasn't it, in Australia? I can't remember exactly. It would be good to see him complete the whole race, see what he's like with wheel-to-wheel combat. Could be exciting to see, but yeah, I don't expect much from Williams this weekend, not at all. As for Renault, they did have a decent performance in Australia, but maybe below some people's expectations, but I think they could be pretty happy. Must be aiming for double points this weekend. Of course, Sainz had an issue with his water bottle in Australia. He was being completely fed water, essentially, and made him feel sick, but he still got a point. Hopefully, more healthy Sainz will be able to do better, challenge Hulkenberg, and I'm still very excited to see who comes out on top between Hulkenberg and Sainz this season, and maybe Bahrain can be a place where we can see that partnership try either doing well for the team or battling too hard. Now Haas, this is the team that talk of the paddock right now. I would say they did brilliantly in Australia until their pit stops. They were running well, they were racing the Red Bulls. Okay, they weren't going to challenge for the victory or anything like that. I think that'd be a bit too ambitious. But they had fantastic pace, way above our expectations for them. But then, of course, in their pit stops, 2 dodgy pit stops, and out. But, can they repeat their pace again this weekend and get a double point finish? I guess that there's maybe a huge fight for P4 in the constructors. And, of course, if Haas want it, which would be a shock, in my opinion, they have to start getting regular points, and they have to do it in Bahrain. And, of course, there's loads of talk about whether they copied Ferrari's 2017 car. It does certainly look pretty similar. And are they allowed to do this? I guess that's the question. And I want to know, what do you think about that whole Haas situation in terms of the 2017 Ferrari car? Tell me in the comments what you think about that. Moving on now to Toro Rosso. Of course, there was a poor showing from their new Honda engine in Australia. It's sort of a continuation of Honda's struggles with McLaren in previous years. But there seems to be lots of positive noises coming from the team about Honda, and as if they've got some type of plan. I find that hard to believe. We've been hearing that for years now, but maybe it'll come good in Bahrain. I guess we have to be optimistic for them. I would like Honda to do well, have another engine supplier. It'd be good to see, but I don't think it's going to happen, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys are going to agree with me there. Moving on now to McLaren. So Alonso has, in the media, said that this week that they can forget about the midfield and focus on racing at the front of the grid. I think they might be a bit ambitious because they did benefit from the 2 Haas cars retiring, Bottas and Verstappen having issues as well in Australia. And that's why Alonso was able to come 5th in my opinion. So I think he's being a bit ambitious. I guess the aim for McLaren would be to have both cars in Q3. Something they did miss out on in Australia, just about. And of course to challenge Red Bull, that has to be their aim this season. But can they do it? I don't know, something again for the comments, tell me what you think. And will their aggressive tyre choice with 9 super soft tyres, each for Alonso and Van Dorn, pay off? Or will it be a bit of an embarrassment for them. Tell me what you think in the comments. Now, Sauber Alfa Romeo, of course, Australia could have been worse. Obviously, it could have been loads better. Guess they want to prove this year they're not a back market team. I reckon they're racing Williams to avoid that position or to be in P9 at the end of the season. I would say Leclerc will want obviously another decent race. I thought he was decent in Australia, not amazing, but a decent opening race by him, rookie race, and we have to see what he can do in Bahrain. So now, as for my predictions, I'm going to go for Lewis Hamilton on pole and victory. This isn't me being some fanboy, but generally he's very good at coming back after a difficulty in the race, and I reckon he'll be able to do that in Bahrain. P2, I'm going for Vettel. Here he is on the pace, clearly Ferrari do have pace, and I reckon he can do well. Verstappen and then Ricciardo in 3rd and 4th, I think they are going to challenge Ferrari and Mercedes, and I think it is going to be a close race, but I think that they're not going to be able to win this weekend. I'm going to go for Raikkonen in P5. I don't think he's going to really challenge Vettel over the season. Vettel's still the #1 driver, let's be honest. And Bottas in P6. I don't know, I have a funny feeling he's going to struggle a bit this season. I don't know why. P7, I'm going to go for Alonso. P8, Sainz. P9, Magnussen, so some points for Haas. And P10, Hulkenberg, so double points for Renault. Now, a new feature of the season, I'm asking Twitter to give me their predictions. So, Josh Stocks, formerly the Moaning Yorkshireman, and now one of the presenters on the Overseer Network, go check out those guys, they are awesome. He says that Hamilton will be on pole position, and then he also says Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel in that order for the podium. He reckons Haas will get double points. I'm not so sure because they tend to fall back during the season. I think that's going to start this weekend, and he reckons they'll be racing Red Bull again. I don't know, maybe that's a bit ambitious, I don't know. And he reckons that Force India will be scrapping for the final points. I guess that is kind of in line with what I said. I mean, I said with a bit of luck they'll be able to get a point or two, although I haven't predicted that they will, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Kyle Miller, obviously go check out his channel too. He reckons that Bottas will be on pole and take the win. Interesting prediction there, I have to be honest. I wouldn't predict that personally, but Bottas was on pole here last season, so you never know. He reckons Hamilton 2nd, Vettel 3rd, Magnussen 4th, interesting there, and Verstappen 5th, and he also reckons that Force India are going to have a retirement. Not sure why he's predicting that, but why not? And then Nicole, go and check out his YouTube channel too. He reckons Lewis Hamilton on pole. That seems to be Mercedes pole anyway, seems to be the general consensus. And then he says Kimi Raikkonen to win the race. Very interesting prediction there, I have to be honest. Hamilton 2nd, Vettel 3rd, Ricciardo 4th, and Grosjean 5th. So some of these guys seem to be disagreeing with me about Haas maybe falling back a bit this weekend. Finally, Adam Giles says Hamilton win and pole, Vettel 2nd, Bottas 3rd, both Red Bulls 4th and 5th, and he reckons a Haas, a Renault and a Force India will all get into the top 10. That would be cool to get so many teams in the top 10. We'll have to see how that goes. So yeah, firstly guys, I will leave a link to all these guys on Twitter in my description if I remember. And yeah, main thing is enjoy the Bahrain Grand Prix. Tell me what you think about what may happen in the comments, and I'll see you guys after the race for my review of the 2018 Bahrain Grand Prix.